Most of the hardwood floors in my home need waxing, and today I am going to give it a go in this room. This is my front hall, and I've never waxed it before, but I recently found a vintage polisher machine in my mother-in-law's basement, so I am excited to try it out and show you the results. The first thing I did was I took out almost all of the furniture in this room. It was really easy because it's a hallway, so there's not a lot, and what there is quite light. I did leave the big armoire against the wall because that is really heavy. I pushed this one out because it's easy to push around, but the other one's really heavy, and I didn't want to make the perfect the enemy of the good, so I just decided not to worry about it. But everything else I cleaned out of that room and stashed in the living room. And then I took my big dust mopper and I went around and dust mopped. I couldn't believe how dusty it was once I had all the furniture out. Then I took a regular broom and swept again because I just felt like it needed it and that it would do it some good. And I looked up on bobvila.com this recipe. It's 1 teaspoon of liquid dish soap, 4 cups of water, and then some essential oils, and he recommends that as a great alternative wood cleaner to the Bono wood care system, which I guess is a really great system for waxed wood floors, but I decided to go this route. I have this great Libman mop that is a spray mop, and you can put any cleaner you want in the container and then spray it, and there's a little microfiber thing, and it's really similar to what the bonus system is with their spray mop. So I decided to give this homemade recipe a try. The Bob Vila recipe calls for Castile soap, but I forgot to buy some when I was at the store, so I used this special mild dish soap that I happen to have on hand that my sister-in-law gave me because she couldn't stand the lavender smell. I guess lavender is, I don't know if some people are allergic to it or something, but it doesn't bother me. And then I dropped some lemon and clove essential oils in, and it actually smelled really, really good. All those three mixed together. Usually in the past, I've cleaned these wax floors with a lot of things I probably shouldn't be using, like Fabuloso or even vinegar. I guess that's a big no-no. I've also in the past cleaned them with a light going over with some mineral spirits, but for the purposes of this experiment with waxing, I decided just to go ahead and clean them with this mild solution. And once I mopped the floors, my kids got really interested and sweetly I pressed them into service to wipe down the baseboards, but they were really good about it. So I mopped the whole floor a couple of times just to make sure as much dust and grime and grit was up as possible. And it's not in the scope of this project I did not attempt to strip whatever remaining wax was on the floors off. I guess you could do that for sure, but for one thing, there's not a lot of wax left on these floors, and for two, again, I'm all about not making the perfect the enemy of the good. So I cleaned them, and then I had a little restore finish, and there's a couple discoloration spots on the floor. This spot in particular is really rough. So I just went over a couple spots with this to improve it a little bit. It didn't do a lot, but it made it a little bit better. Restore finish can help. Sorry about the camera here. It can really help bring up the wood grain and make the floor look nicer. You could go over the whole floor, but I've got a really big floor here, and I also didn't really feel like it needed it. But this little corner had some water damage, and I went over that, and it improved it a lot in that spot. The other spot is really just a discoloration. I think I'd have to sand to get that off completely, unfortunately. But it did make it a little better. Then I got out my SC Johnson paste wax, which I have had this for years. I waxed a floor upstairs in our house a couple years ago, and I made a video about it. Since that time, SC Johnson Wax has discontinued this iconic product, but I happen to have about 4 canisters of it left. So when I am out of it completely, I'm going to have to look for another paste wax or liquid wax to use on my floors, but I did use SC Johnson Wax for this. Unfortunately, you can't really buy it anymore. It's sort of a collector's item, so I'll try to link down below to some other waxes that you could use. I really like this wax because it's very soft, and you just sort of pat it on your cloth. Mine was really soft because it's a warm day, and the directions say to just put a very thin coat on, very, very thin, and that multiple coats, I read, are not necessary because this isn't, I mean, I have no idea what this really means, but since it's a solvent-based thing, when you put another coat on, it strips the coat underneath of it. It kind of starts taking it off, as funny as that sounds. So 1 thin coat of this Johnson paste wax I put on with a little clean lint-free rag, and I just got down on my hands and knees and rubbed it on, and it goes really quick because the paste is it's like softened butter. It just glides right on, and you can see how the difference where it's shiny versus where it's not, on where the floor is still really dull and scratched. So I did this on my hands and knees. About halfway through, I wished that I had gone down in the basement and gotten the knee pads that we have from when my husband tiled our bathroom, but I didn't. I just went the whole way with nothing on my knees. I did put a pair of cotton socks on my hands to protect my hands, and I would have put gloves, but I couldn't find my cotton gloves, so I just grabbed an old pair of socks, and that worked fine. I rubbed with the grain of the wood. I think that's really important to fill in all the gaps and cracks and holes. And I have to admit, here I am with a little dull knife. As I was wiping, even though I cleaned the floor, there were still some little sticky spots that I had missed. So I just scraped them up with a knife as I went along. Then, after 30 minutes, I got out my little polisher machine. I took a shower after I had finished with the floor. And then I came back and I put the buffing pads on. So the brushes are for cleaning more, and then it comes with these little felt pads that you put on, or you could get lamb's wool ones too. They do still sell them for these kind of vintage machines at Home Depot. I was able to find them. And I turned the thing on, and I just went up and down, up and down, up and down with the grain of the wood and a little bit without. And then my kids got really interested, so my daughter really wanted to give it a go. It is really fun. It's a fun little machine to use. It's very, very lightweight, and just easy. It's not like this, it doesn't get out of control or anything. You can see it's really small and handheld, and I love the cute color. So I'm really, really glad my mother-in-law never got rid of these. There were actually 2 or 3 in her basement, and they're still working. They're just wonderful. I will try to link below. They don't sell them new anymore, but you can find them pretty easily used on eBay and places like that. Here's the floor after we buffed it, my kids and I, which didn't take long at all because, it goes really fast with the electric buffer. And it went from when you put the wax on, it dries to a haze, and then when you buff it, this is the result. It gets all shiny, and I am just thrilled with how it turned out. All the scratches and dullness is gone from the floor, and it's almost as good as new. I let the floors dry overnight, and then the next day I put all of the furniture back. It only took a few minutes. Was well worth it to take it out. Of course, when I was putting it in, I got some scuffs on my brand new wax floors, but apparently you can just buff and rebuff in between waxes pretty much, and that'll shine it up and get the marks out. So I just went over it really quick again with my new best friend, my vintage Shetland floor polisher. And then I walked through and admired my new shiny floors. It's so nice to see the shine after so many years of dullness and not really knowing what to do. I'm really happy with how these floors turned out, and I'm so glad to have this vintage polisher. Please like and subscribe for more content about waxed wood floors, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.